Good morning, YouTube. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody's having a great day. I actually kind of been up for a minute, so I just wanted to kind of talk about, as the title says, forgiveness. And I feel like me personally, I feel like I forgive you are very, those are very powerful words, very powerful because if you take it even just in the context of forgiving yourself, that is something that I think everybody struggles with on some level, because I know for me, in the past it's been a lot easier to forgive other people than it was to look myself in the mirror and be like, I forgive you. And I've literally, like, I've been my own worst enemy practically my whole life. I've always in the past have seemed to struggle since early childhood with um, depression, just feeling like I wasn't good enough and all this other stuff. And the thing in my case, looking back, it's like, I don't understand. There's no reason why I should have felt that way. I have a very, very wonderful family. And there was, outside of being this outcast at school, like, my home was my safe zone, you know. And then it just kind of, the older I got, the bigger my mistakes and bad choices became. So, of course, the bigger the bad choice, the bigger the consequence. And it just kind of got to a point where my life had literally become completely unmanageable. And, now my thing with forgiving people is, I feel like, especially with people in my past, I forgive you all day long. And this is something I've learned the hard way. For 10 years, I thought that if you forgave someone, and I lived this way, it meant that even though they have showed you absolute no sign of changing or even attempting to change or wanting to change, forgiving them meant that you would just let them keep being in your life and you would keep letting them, be toxic to you. And nothing good comes out of situations like that. And you flash forward to March of last year, was when my life literally was just like 180, completely different direction. And since then, the blessings and the great things that I have because I've continued to make the right choices are just happening at an astronomically fast pace to me. Case in point, like, my daughter was maybe a year, if not a little bit younger, when I came down here. My biological father lived down here, and it was supposed to be like one of those things where I come down and I meet him, and then I go back to Georgia where my family, my kid was, and I stayed for about a month, and then I was supposed to go back, and I had this like really bad feeling that if I didn't leave, I would never get my child back. And it was kind of hard to explain. And it just, like, it was kind of like the parent intuition that something really bad was going to happen. And I kept making up excuses, which I thought at the time were justified. Like, well, my sister called, she said I left some stuff over there. And it was like, at the same time, the left side, right side battle, the better part of me was like, would remind myself, okay, you remember how crazy it was over there when you just visited her a couple days ago. Like, you just buy new stuff. You can always turn around and buy more, leave. And whatever the reason, I didn't. I wound up staying. And for the past 10 years, up until March of 2018, I wound up living off and on with my biological father. And it was a lot of drama. Like, I have not one friend at all in that town. They were all acquaintances, and they literally all would either leech off of me or my dad. My dad and my brother and my sister all were very big on talking bad about everybody behind their backs, putting each other down. It was just, it didn't feel like home. It was absolutely miserable. I was miserable because for me, that's just not how we grew up. Like, in our house, we got grounded for saying shut up. Never mind, God forbid, I had ever actually been stupid enough to cuss my mama or my dad. I never did because I knew what would happen and everything, but that's what we grew up in. We grew up with hugs and kisses, and, we were told and taught, you don't say mean things. You're not going to be mean. You're not going to be negative to people. You would basically do like Thumper, and, they're very big on, if you can't say something nice, don't talk, and so it was a very big change. And, the one good thing I can say about it though is, I did struggle a lot growing up with the whole just adoption in general. And it wasn't necessarily because of anything other than, in my mind, I couldn't understand why I felt like they didn't try harder, or, it was like, well, it must be me. Because the thing is, like, I don't remember them at all. I unfortunately don't remember anything about my life before my parents adopted me. So when I finally understood that to me, it was a huge shell shock, because I remember thinking, well, wait a minute, what do you mean you're not my mama? You've been my mama since I was 2 years old. She was my foster mom first, so she's had me from 22 months to, and even now it's like, well, she's been, these have been my mama, mom and dad for 34 out of 36 of my years. They might as well be my biological parents. Like, they've raised me since I was in diapers. And, I got down here, and it's nothing, don't get me wrong too when I say this, people, because it's nothing against George. It's nothing against his side of the family. It's nothing against Bobby or her side of the family. I have two sets of parents, one that brought me into this world and tried to raise me, and then the other set that took over and have raised me and adopted me and have now turned around and they have helped me raise my daughter, which is where she is now. So, I love both my mothers and both my fathers equally, just for different reasons. But it kind of helped me understand. And for me, I was actually able to let go of a lot of the issues I had surrounding my childhood adoption. It became a lot easier to forgive him for that part, because it was kind of like, I can't really blame him for not having the skills or whatever you want, just whatever the reasons. I couldn't really blame him. I was told there was a lot of reasons growing up, and I could kind of see, and I guess my thing was to, regardless of whether he tried hard enough or not, there is a huge difference between, you know, the way I was raised and the way I could have been raised. And again, this is not a judgment call. This is nothing against my biological family. It's just a simple fact remains. I personally know all the way down to my soul that me being raised by my mother and father not only saved my life, it forever changed my legacy and my family's legacy. Like, I'm gonna cry. Oh, no, just okay, hold on. I don't want to cry. It's happy tears, but still, I do this every time I think about it. You know, I really feel like if God hadn't stepped in and gave me the mother and father that I have, and the parent figures that my daughter has because of them, I think my life would be so different, and I would have so many more issues. And he saved me, and he saved my daughter and every generation after me by adopting, allowing me to be placed in, with the family that I have now. And I can never, ever express enough gratitude to God for that. And, but like I said, I stayed here. Flash forward probably about the last 2 or 3 years. My dad had actually gotten cancer, and the first time it was on his nose, and it never stopped. It didn't go away, but it had actually stopped growing. And then right before, about a year and a half before I had got arrested, my last ex, I was staying with him, and I kind of noticed like my dad was starting to get skinnier, and something just felt off. It looked off. And it was at that point that he told me that he thought his cancer was back. And I can't lie, like, it scared me to death, because I remember what he went through the first time. I actually had a grandmother pass away from it. Her name was Joyce, and with her, like, we didn't even know until it was too late. And I'm actually kind of grateful, because it was a week. We found out, I think it was on a Friday, that they thought she had cancer. We found out for sure that Monday that not only did she have it, that it was terminal. And then 4 days later, she went to heaven. So, and then I think the funeral was Saturday. So it literally was like a week. And it took me probably 5 years before it really started to sink in, because it was so fast. Like, I didn't even really have the time to process it until afterwards. Whereas with my dad, it was a lot of, it was a long time. And on top of that, like, when it came back the second time, he had a lot of other health issues, don't get me wrong, as it was. But he had already said when he came back the second time, he was ready, as he said it, for the boneyard. He was done. And I just knew then, I'm like, okay, he's not going to fight it this time. And sure enough, he didn't even go to the doctor. I don't think he actually, I'm trying to think now. He didn't go to the doctor until he started getting too weak. My dad was the kind that liked to be outside all the time. He would go dumpster diving and stuff like that. So when it started to do that and take its toll on that part, then it started getting serious. He had a stroke, and that was actually when they noticed. They said there was something on his brain. And what had happened was the cancer had moved to his neck. We never really found out what was on his brain. because that was also when we found out that there was cancer on his neck really bad. And he said he wanted it to, just let it run its course. So that was kind of hard, but I wanted to give him respect his wishes. And I had no support. So for me, it was just, and I am really trying to get over that because for me, I forgive my family for it. But at the same time, like, I still really, I don't know if resent's the right word. I just kind of feel like, let me put it this, actually, I have a perfect example. When my dad was basically dying this last time, I was usually the one that would always take care of his medical stuff anyways, but I wound up moving back in with him. And my brother and my sister lived close by. My brother actually lived in town, but nobody wanted to help. They actually literally point blank didn't care. They would only come around when they wanted money or something from my dad. And there was a lot of nights that I would listen to my dad cry, or my dad would tell me, "You're the only one I can really depend on." So I felt this responsibility to be there. Sorry, I haven't really talked about it since my dad has died, like as far as what it did to me. And so I'm probably, this part probably will be emotional. I'm sure I'm going to cry. But like I said, I had nobody to lean on. I couldn't really talk to his family about it because they would get frustrated, and I know they didn't mean to, but they would act like I wasn't doing enough and kept wanting me to take him to doctors, and, just didn't seem to understand that he was done fighting. When a person reaches that point where they're just done fighting and they're ready to die and go home, there's not really anything you can do for them except just try to make them as comfortable as possible. And that's pretty much what I did. I had to sit there and watch my dad day in and day out slowly deteriorate. And I remember, like, there was one morning he scared me so bad because I came in the room to check on him. And I called his name a couple of times. And he didn't say anything. So I'm standing over the bed and I'm watching his chest to make sure he's breathing. And for a good 5 seconds, I didn't see his chest move. And I remember, I was like, "Dad!" And at this point, he rolled over, but he wound up having to go to the hospital that day. And they said that I forgot what I was wrong, but he was actually sick. And then it was right about the time we found out the cancer had come back and went into remission, but when it was in his nose, but it came back and moved to his neck, and it was kind of like, I think they said it was like right in here, because it was actually to the point of starting to crush his vocal cords. And they have a saying, you feel like you're barely above water. When all this was happening, they're close. The more obvious it became that there was going to be no way around this, the more I just kind of sank deeper and deeper. And for me, I kind of got to the point, I was like, look, I'm not even above water anymore. Like, I feel like I am drowning. I feel like I am already underwater. I feel like my lungs are filling up with water. And, was literally desperate to the point that I was willing to almost do anything just to, even if it was fake, feel like somebody cared about me. And, I just wanted one person to be there just for 5 seconds and be like, it's okay to fall apart. I got you. You don't have to be strong all the time. And I remember, like, I would cry to God, and I'd tell God, I'd be like, God, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I can't do this. This is too hard and stuff like that. And I wound up turning to drugs to numb all these, emotions and everything. Because that was the thing. At that point in my life, I didn't want to feel anymore because I had gone to full-fledged survival mode. And, like, I couldn't think past the day. I couldn't plan past the day. All I was trying to do was just get through the day, get through the moment, because I just felt like I had no fight left in me. And I was pretty much to the point I didn't care anymore, And, the thing with my, especially my sister, like, during this time, it was like, God forbid, we would, be talking to the same family members. Just, I was one instance, she turned around and she had blocked me on Facebook, all because I was going to go down and see her uncle, and she couldn't go because of her family obligations within her in-laws and stuff. And turned around and made this big deal about, I forgot how she put it. It was just kind of one of those things. I'm like, really? How am I taking him from you or whatever? This is both our uncles. This is nothing to be jealous of. So I didn't understand that. I still don't. And then, like I said, I got arrested in March for that. And my life has just been a 180 since then. And for me, I know the reason why. The reason why was simply because for the first time in my life, I actually really meant it. And I told God that I would stop if he could just send somebody to help me out, show me the right direction. Because I really was like, dude, I don't know which way to go. I am that lost on the inside. I am so confused. I don't know what to do. And I wound up meeting this lady that runs a prison ministry, and I stayed at her safe house, and then I went to LA Arc, and from there I moved in with my husband last year, and I have been able to see my daughter. Since then, I've been able to FaceTime with her. I Skype with her a lot. I get to talk to her on the phone. Oh, excuse me. And that was something that I've been able to do for past 4 or 5 years prior to being arrested. Like, I wasn't in her life hardly at all. I felt like I would have been nothing but a disappointment to her then. And, now I talk to her probably at least once a week. I have my family back. I'm actually going to be able to see her for 3 days straight this year. And I haven't had that since she was like a year old. So I'm super, super, super excited that God allowed for this opportunity for me to kind of get to know her a little better, and not just get to know her, but for me especially to reinstill in her and make sure she knows, which I'm sure she does. I say it all the time. But, just really make sure she knows that I love her and that there is absolutely nothing she can say or do that will ever be able to change that, because this is not a love that is earned. This is a automatic and freely given love, because simply because you are my child. That's it. I don't have to have a reason to love you. And like I said, forgiveness can be tough. I feel like that's kind of one of those lessons you're gonna have to learn and repeat probably all your life, because there are still some aspects of my life and issues that I struggle with. But I'm human. I'm not God. I'm not perfect. So I can sit here and look pretty all day long, but I have my issues just like everybody else. And I would just say, for those that are watching, God bless you for listening to me. Hang in there. You're always going to have people talk about you. She still does. She actually, she and my sister are still constantly trying to send people from my past, whether it be through Facebook or whatever, to talk to me. All because I've made it crystal clear that, I'm not going to go that route again. I'm not going to associate with anyone that is drama, because drama is very toxic for me in my life. And I love my life. My life is very simple. I get to be a stay-at-home housewife, which means I have all day to where I can sit here and I can work on my yard and I can work on the house and, really get to, I guess, basically date myself and know myself and, learn who I really am. And I can't do that when I'm surrounded by nothing but negativity. And, here, my thing with people and forgiveness, the thing with forgiveness, you can forgive somebody all day long, but that doesn't mean that you have to keep letting them in your life, and you don't have to keep letting them hurt you regardless of who they are. I forgive her. I forgive my brother. I forgive my uncle, my dad. I forgive everybody that has been in my life on any level at any point. I forgive all of them. However, you will not rob me of my second chance at life. I don't care who you are. And I don't care, how mean it sounds. I just don't care. This is my moment, and I am determined to live it. And this is just one of the ways that I have determined that I'm going to, I'm going to live a life. My moment, my life, not my drama. Because, and this is one last thing. This, your brain is the best defense mechanism you could ever have for trying to stay on the right path. God gave, the eagle wings. I like how T.D. Jakes said it. God gave the eagle wings. He made the elephant so big in size as their defense. Cheetahs can run. He gave humans brains so they could think. And your mind really is a battlefield. So that being said, this is what I've done. When I first came back first moved in with my husband, she would message him trying to check on me, which was fine, but I wouldn't talk to her. And I had my reasons for that. Basically, I want to say it was March or it was like May of last year. I had tried to stay at her house for a weekend until I could get into a shelter. This was before I went to Lark. And she literally, she knew that I had struggled with addiction and everything. But this girl turned around and had introduced me to a known addict, like actively using addict. And then, so I didn't want to talk to her. And she did some other things that weekend that really crossed the line for me. But then I noticed, because I had blocked her profile, I noticed where she had used her birth name and was trying on my page or whatever, because it says somebody has started following me or liked my pages or whatever. And I had basically just sent her a message and was like, look, I'm not mad at you, and which I wasn't, and I'm still not. I forgive her. I think it's really shitty that she did that, because, and it's not just her. I mean, my brother got so mad at me because I wouldn't come home and take care of my dad when he wound up having to be put in a nursing home because nobody else would step up. And for me, I think it's just, like I said, it's really shitty when you would rather somebody come home to an environment where they're going to use again than respect them and be happy for them because they chose to do the hardest thing that they've ever had to do, which was stay away and, stay so they can stay sober when all they really wanted to do was be there to take care of their parent. Because I wanted to be there, but I also knew if I went back there, I would use again. So I chose to stay away. And it was one that cost me a lot of tears and everything else, but it was one that if I had to go back, I would still make that same decision. And I pretty much have blocked every effort she's made since then because she got the nastiest attitude. And this is how she's responded several times. The several times she's tried to make contact with me and I won't accept it. She's resorted to calling me names. She's resorted to trying to throw my past in my face. She's resorted to trying to play the victim. She's even resorted to trying to get my exes to message me. Just all kinds of off the wall behavior. And the thing with it is, she either doesn't care or doesn't realize I really could care less which one it is. But I think a lot of people do this and they feel like, to them it might be justified. But when you're looking at it from my point of view, as long as people like that act that way towards me, because I'm not catering to what you want me to do, for me, it proves that I am absolutely making the right decision by not allowing you in my life. Because I have things that I want to do that I can't necessarily do either, but you don't see me calling up my mom or, whoever and being like, well, blah, 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 you're evil, you've done this, you've done that. You're proving that person right because by not allow, you don't do that. That's not how you get somebody to let their guard down. I never said that, I was innocent or anything like that. Like I'm the kind, I'm very much an open book and I have no shame in telling you my story. I have no shame in admitting, that I have a past, that I have all these things that have happened. And the reason is because it's contrary to what some people say. It's not bragging. It is simply this is where I've been. This is what God has brought me out of. And it's simply meant as encouragement because, the old me wouldn't have, because I would have been stuck in that mindset. People will talk, people will say whatever. I really could care less. And I think that's the beauty of getting older too, because it seems like the older I get, the less I care kind of thing. But my opinion, my worth is not determined by what anybody on the face of this earth thinks of me. I am human. Yes, I would like approval of some people. I love when my husband says he's proud of me. I'm overjoyed knowing that my parents are proud of me, knowing that I can be a source of their smiles is an immense comfort when for so long I was a source of their tears. It's nice to be able to give them that back. I love the fact that I can look in the mirror and I like the person I see. I love the woman that I've become. And it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of facing myself. Facing what everybody else did to me was easy. It was the facing myself, learning to forgive myself for allowing it to happen over and over, and just kind of learning how to have that backbone. So, like I said, hang in there if you're struggling with stuff like that, and just remember, I know it's probably like one of those, it's easier said than done, but trust me, I have been there. I get it. It does suck and it does hurt when people talk about you, especially when it's supposed to be your family. But I mean, I've been called everything under the sun. And shoot, she called me trailer park trash before. And the only thing, I guess my mindset, it was just kind of, I'm like, okay, you've lived in a trailer before though, so does that make you trailer park trash? And it was just, I would have said that regardless of who anybody said that to me. That's just kind of where my thought pattern tends to go. But it's just kind of, it was one of those, as soon as I read it, instead of getting mad, it was just kind of like, really? Okay, so again, for the third time, this is why we're not talking. I tested you to see what you would do, and she resorted right back to old behaviors. And that's, my parents did that with me. That's the only reason why I am allowed to have contact with them, and I'm allowed to have all these great things with my daughter, is because I'm not, I got clean. I'm not behaving the same way that I used to. And I've had over a year of constant doing good. I have not gotten in any trouble whatsoever, and I won't. For the skeptics out there, I really could care less. I know exactly what I'll lose if I go back out there. I know exactly what that life brings, and I'm good. Never again. I don't care what I have to do, and I don't care how hard, the work might be to keep me on this path. I will never go back to the old me. I will never go back. Sorry, something going on outside. I will never go back to any of that. Ever. Because they don't deserve, and I guess my thing is the way, whether it's the right way or wrong way to look at it, the way I choose to look at it too. You don't deserve this version of me. I'm kind of one of those, if you can't be there for me when I'm at my worst, you don't deserve to see me when I'm at my best. And sorry, I just realized I say that a lot. That's just, it is what it is. I don't know how to be politically correct. So I apologize if I seem abrasive or whatever, because I've been told that I do have a very abrasive personality. And it's not meant to be abrasive. It's just, like I said in the beginning, I've been through a lot. I made a lot of really dumb choices in my life, and I've had to pay some pretty hard consequences. And, I have nobody to blame for that but myself. Even, being an addict, I did that. I inadvertently chose that because I knew there was that risk when I first started using that stuff. I knew that. We all know the risk. We all know what could happen. And I don't, it's the thing about being an addict. You don't know when. You can't pinpoint that moment that you lose control. But somewhere along the way, I lost the ability to control using. And it became my life. And it's just, I've been taken down before, so to speak, by different things, but it took me maybe 6 months this last time. And they'd actually had gotten to the point where they were starting to say that I was having heart issues. So basically in 6 months, I almost, I really believe if I hadn't have gotten out when I did and I hadn't have stopped, and God didn't orchestrate everything the way He did, I wouldn't be here today. I guarantee it, because I should have died. I should be dead for a lot of reasons. I should not be walking around today. The devil should have killed me when he had the chance, but he didn't. And I'm gonna go now. This video wound up being longer than what I thought it would be because I was just gonna do a short one. But that's, like I said, that's just my 2 cents. And hopefully you guys feel encouraged by listening to this. Because that's all I have. Forgiveness can be tough, especially when you're trying to forgive yourself. And, but forgiveness wasn't meant for the other person. It's meant for you. That's the whole point of forgiving someone. It's not so they can move on, so you can move on. Because I forgive all day long. I'm just not willing to sacrifice the life that I have now for somebody that's not going to appreciate me. And to me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's how you have to be if you want to receive blessings from God and stuff like that. You have to have that mindset. I'll forgive you all day long because I want God to show me forgiveness. But if you're not, we have to have boundaries. And if you can't respect my boundaries, then there's no reason why we need to talk. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So later, and I hope you guys have a great day.